Welcome to the Front 7 podcast right here on YouTube once again. As I said earlier in my first video, this is the second video of two videos on the day as I discuss the current big news in free agency. And if you haven't done so yet, after this video, go back and check out my first video of the day, which was discussing Giants general manager Jerry Reese and his overspending or spending spree, whichever you want to use, and whether or not it was done to save his own job, now that Tom Coughlin is no longer there to be the scapegoat. I discussed that and much more on that show, so be sure to go back and check that out after you listen to this, if you have not done so yet. Now for this show, I will look at another general manager, Ryan Grigson of the Indianapolis Colts, and this will be a shorter video than what the video earlier when I discussed Jerry Reese and the spending sprees. And basically, I've said what I've said about Ryan Grigson in the past. If you go back to when I first started doing this show last May after the draft, I said, and I posted a little thing here, a little bubbly thing where you can click a link and go back to last May, and you can listen to what I said about Ryan Grigson. And I've said what I've said about him, but I really am trying to figure out, here we are, basically a week into free agency, and so far the Colts have not done anything yet. I'm not a fan of teams that go on a spending spree, general managers that like to spend money, because I prefer just to go through the draft and build a team through the draft. I mean, that's how I would build a team. And I get it. Maybe that's what the Colts are trying to do. Ryan Grigson has failed in bringing in free agents in the past, and they have not done so well. I mean, they let go of Andre Johnson, who they brought in last year, who was a complete bust of a signing. And it's not like his draft picks haven't been that much to talk about. Outside of 2012, where he lucked into, and no pun intended there, he lucked into a situation of becoming the general manager of the Colts at a time that they did a full house cleaning and moved on from the Peyton Manning era. And he lucked into Andrew Luck being the number one prospect and being considered a once-in-a-lifetime prospect. And that it was an easy no-brainer for any general manager to easily take a job, and you can go right into that kind of situation. Since then, as I discussed before, basically, it's been hit and miss for him. And the Colts have not been able to realize their full potential. Now, I discussed this earlier when I discussed the coaching carousel a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, whatever. But the Colts kept both Ryan Grigson and Chuck Pagano. I don't know why they kept Grigson. I thought maybe Pagano definitely deserved another year with a better general manager. Because as I stated in my video earlier today about Jerry Reese, the coach can only work with what a general manager gives him. And as I said in that video, I thought Tom Coughlin made work out of the players that he was given when it really wasn't that much given to him. And when you look at the Colts, well, Chuck Pagano is pretty much not being able to have any success because Grigson fails to give him what he needs in order to succeed. And what I see is another situation in Indianapolis in the Peyton Manning era where everything fell on the shoulders of Peyton Manning. Because remember, with Peyton Manning injured in 2011, The Colts crash landing, worst team in the league without Peyton Manning. I mean, that showed how much the Colts neglected the entire team and failed to put any talent on that team. Basically, is what I see here is history repeating itself. I don't see them putting anything around Andrew Luck. Yes, they got T.Y. Hilton. They got these great receivers. They re-signed Dwayne Allen. Defensively, they have nothing. But most importantly here, what I really want to talk about here is their offensive line. I read a quote on an article, well, that basically said what everybody knows, and that's the Colts' offensive line is the issue. And that was not more prominent than last year when Andrew Luck got injured and he had to miss several games. Chuck Pagano. This is what Chuck Pagano said. The interior of that offensive line, the center, and 2 guard spots is the vocal point. Now, this is what Ryan Grigson said. Obviously, the bulk of our winning has been from our superb quarterback play. So yeah, that's the common sense approach. So if that's the common sense approach, according to Ryan Grigson, then why on earth have the Colts sat back and done nothing in free agency to improve upon Andrew Luck's protection? Chuck Pagano talked about the guards and the centers, right? And it's not like the Colts had the don't have the cap room. I mean, they have the cap room, but what I don't understand is when you look at some of these contracts and the players that were available, how the Colts did not show any interest in any of these players. Now, obviously, the top guard in free agency was Kaleki Osemele. There was no team that was going to match what the Raiders were overpaying him in order to get him. Now, Evan Mathis is still available, but I can see maybe the Colts wanted to pass on him because he'll be 35 in November. And Jim Irsay did mention about getting younger. Free agent guard Jeff Allen. He signed with the Texans 4 years, $28 million. Only $7 million a year. Chuck Pagano talked about improving the guard position. $7 million a year. How would that not interest you? I mean, Jeff Allen is actually one of the talented guards in the league, but just wasn't used by Andy Reid for some unknown reason. Alex Boone of the 49ers. Why not him? Why not Ramon Foster, who remained with the Steelers? Vikings guard Mike Harris. He re-signed with them for 1 year. Again, why not take a chance? You have Brandon Brooks of the Texans. The Texans brought in Jeff Allen to replace him, who signed with the Eagles for 5 years and $40 million. I mean, there's some talented guards here that the Colts could have had to improve Andrew Luck's protection, but just decided to sit back and just watch them sign elsewhere. Now, center is obviously the anchor of the offensive line. And yeah, okay, Alex Mack was probably the key free agent when you look at the list of centers that were available in free agency. You had Stefan Wisniewski, who is still out there in free agency. You had Ben Jones of the Texans. He signed with division rival Tennessee, in which all cases are looking at basically improving Marcus Mariota's protection with not just the signing of Ben Jones, but also the possibility of adding Laramie Tunsil at left tackle and moving Taylor Luhan to right tackle. But yet the Colts stayed put. If improving Andrew Luck's protection was number one, then why did the Colts just sit back and let these guys get signed by other teams and watch other teams improve their offensive line. And especially at a time, the Jaguars, they have Dante Fowler coming back from injury. He tore his ACL last year and basically redshirted his rookie year. Malik Jackson, huge contract coming from Denver to Jacksonville. He's going to be chasing Andrew Luck twice a year. J.J. Watt is still J.J. Watt. He's still going to be coming after Andrew Luck twice a year. So, again, tell me something here. If protecting Andrew Luck is the key to what the Colts want to do, then why didn't they go out and try to get a veteran free agent to do just that? I mean, I get it if they want to build through the draft and take the Jerry Jones route and select linemen over the course of several years, like the way the Cowboys have done and built their offensive line with Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, all first-round picks. So maybe that's the route, and they want to build the offensive line over several years. But Andrew Luck is coming up on a contract extension after this season. And granted, it is expected that he's going to sign a big mega deal with the Colts. But then again, what if Andrew Luck decides to not sign with the Colts? Then what happens? Then what happens to the Colts? I mean, if you're Andrew Luck and you see teams that are improving their offensive line, you see teams that are improving their pass rush within the division, and your team is sitting there doing nothing to counter it, how do you think that makes Andrew Luck feel right now? Knowing that he's probably going to get injured again if the Colts don't do anything to improve their offensive line in the draft. I mean, I don't know. Tell me what you think of the Colts' current situation with the offensive line. Are the Colts right in ignoring free agency prospects and just waiting for the draft? Or should they have done something to protect Andrew Luck and just mixed it up with some veteran free agents and some young guys to build a good, young, stable line? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. I've been your host, Money Mike. More videos to come throughout the week. Front 7 podcast tomorrow. It might be another 2 videos. Maybe. I don't know yet. It depends on things. I will have more on Colin Kaepernick going to the Browns, quite possibly, even though Colin Kaepernick doesn't like what the Browns have done in free agency, which is the equivalent to what Ryan Grigson has done. Nothing. I will also be discussing the recent fine and the strip of the 3rd round pick by the Chiefs, by the NFL. Was it right? Was it wrong? And I will end the week looking at the 2016 draft. Folks, we are over a month away from the NFL draft at the end of April. And so far, free agency has thrown a wrench into everything. I will discuss the outlook of the draft based off of these moves in free agency. And maybe by the end of the week, when I discuss this, we might get some clarity on how the draft will unfold even further if there's some more moves made. Kaepernick to the Browns. Maybe the Browns go after another quarterback. That takes them out of it. Where does Carson Wentz end up going if the Browns get a veteran quarterback? Who knows? I've been your host, Money Mike. I'll see you tomorrow as I discuss the tampering penalty on the Chiefs and much more.